Okay, so this is 2011B, question 2. And I'll be honest with you guys, this problem is actually one that I would struggle with getting a perfect score. And we'll talk about that as where I would have issues on getting a perfect score with it. But I do think it's a really good problem to practice and kind of lets you see inside the minds of the graders on some of the specificity. So when we go through this, I'm going to be kind of picky on part C. And then at the very end, I'm going to add a couple questions that weren't here that I just think will help us, might help you prepare for the AP exam. So 2011B, question 2, and this is about fear of acrophobia, and I'm just going to summarize it. They are basically making a study, and they're going to offer some patients a new drug, and they'll take that with a therapy, then I'll have a therapy session. And other patients will receive a placebo followed by a therapy session. So basically, everyone in the study is receiving a therapy session, and that therapy session will either be preceded by a medication or by a placebo. And what they want to see is whether or not they can decrease the number of therapy sessions to decrease the fear of heights. So that was kind of the purpose of the study. We had 27 people, and 17 of them would be receiving the medication, and then 10 would receive the placebo. So was the study an experiment or observational study? Well, provide an explanation to support your answer. It's very simple on this one. This was an experiment because treatments were randomly assigned to the participants. So if treatments are assigned and are assigned randomly, and that's a key phrase, makes an experiment. All right. When the data, yes.
We can't see your screen.
Thank you so much. So let me go back to the share screen because I did forget to share that. I appreciate you speaking up. All right, hopefully you can see the share screen now. Yes?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, great. So I'm going to back up. So it was a study, an experiment or observational study, providing an explanation to support your answer. Well, this was an experiment, and it was an experiment because treatments were randomly assigned. Two things, treatments must be assigned, they must be done randomly. So if they're assigned randomly, we're dealing with an experiment. Now, how good of an experiment? That's up for debate, but at least it's an experiment because treatments were randomly assigned. Part B, when the data was analyzed, the medication group showed statistically significantly more improvement than the placebo group did. Based on this result, would the researchers be justified, including that the medication and the 2 therapy sessions are as beneficial as 8 therapy sessions without the pill? Justify your answer. Well, they would not be justifying making that claim as 8 sessions without the pill. The claim cannot be made because there was no group that received only 8 therapy sessions. I need to make a change here. Because no treatment group received only 8 therapy sessions. But since that was not tested, or that was not one of the treatments, we can't make that claim. Now, can we make the claim that medication with therapy is better than therapy alone? Yes, we can make that claim because it was statistically significant. But we cannot say that medication is better than the 8 therapy, because 8 therapy was not ever tested. All right, since it wasn't tested, we can't make the claim. All right, part C, a newspaper article that summarized the results of the study did not explain how it was determined which people received the medication and which received placebo. Suppose the researchers allowed the therapist to choose which people received the medication and which received the placebo, and no randomization was used. Explain why such a method of assignment might lead to an incorrect conclusion. All right, so they didn't use randomization, so that's a problem. So they're using the therapist mindset. Well, if I'm a therapist, I might very well sit there and go, you know what? They have extreme fear of heights, and this group doesn't, so I'm going to put the group with extreme fear together and those that with less fear in a different group. So they may create groups based on similar characteristics. For instance, one group may have more intense fear of heights than another. If the therapists were aware of the person's level of fear, it could impact the way in which the therapy lessons were conducted, and we would not know if the change in fear level was due to the pill or the difference in the way the therapy was conducted. All right? The big thing there is, and this is what the big part of this is if they don't randomly assign to treatments, we don't know whether or not it was the treatment that caused it or difference in the therapy or some outside variable. So randomization is necessary to minimize the effects of outside variables that were not controlled for in the design of the study. We did not intentionally control for fear intensity level. The highlighted portion was not required, but I'm just telling you that randomization is necessary to minimize the effects of outside variables. That's why we randomize, okay? All right, so what was not asked, and which I'm going to go ahead and ask, was based on the information in Part B, does this prove causation, justify your response? Well, Part B said it was statistically significant, and in Part A, we said it was an experiment. So this was an experiment, and because its findings are statistically significant, it is reasonable to say that the medication combined with 2 therapy sessions is more effective than 2 therapy sessions alone. Notice I said that the medication and therapy were better than 2 therapy sessions. We can't say the medication and 2 therapy are better than 8 therapy because that wasn't tested. But if you actually compared the treatments, it was statistically different. So you can say because it was an experiment, causation could have been shown had they asked that question. All right. I don't know anything about what they're asking this year, but I just have a general hunch that you need to know, or you might need to know, to whom a study or experiment could be generalized. In other words, to what population does this apply? Well, remember, we're always generalizing not to our sample, because that's obviously what the sample measured. We're generalizing to some larger population. So in this case, the study can be generalized to the population of people who have a fear of heights and had similar characteristics to those in the sample. All right? And please remember, that's always the case. When we do a study, we can generalize it to those other people that are similar. So when I had a study of 9th graders from one rural high school, that only applied to that rural high school, because that rural high school does not represent all rural high schools. Okay? Now, if I do a survey in San Antonio of 100 people, I can probably generalize to the people in San Antonio, but I probably should not try to use that to generalize outside of San Antonio. All right, so make sure you know to whom you're generalizing. And then lastly, what are the treatments? What are the treatments are the 2 sessions alone, and then the 2 sessions of therapy combined with the medication. And the response variable is a person's level of fear of heights. Now, once again, these last few questions were not part of the AP thing, the AP exam that year, but I do know that these are typical questions that they like to ask, so I thought I'd go ahead and use this time to do that. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.